the president was quite forward-leaning in advance of the nuclear deal even being completed, in acknowledging that we know that Iran supports terrorism. We know that Iran supports Hezbollah and the Assad regime. And it certainly is possible that some of the money that Iran has is being used for those purposes too.
Wow, the White House admitting with the money we're giving Iran will likely end up in the hands of terrorists, and they still sent it anyway. This shocking revelation coming as critics call the secret $400 million payment to Iran a ransom to get our prisoners back. Are we playing a costly game that's emboldening our enemies? Hi, everyone. I'm Eric Boeing. Welcome to Cashing In, our Cashing In crew this week. Mercedes Schlapp, Rick Grinnell, Gina Loudon, and Juan Williams. Welcome, everybody. Rick, the Obama administration admitting that they know some of the money will likely end up in the hands of terrorists, yet they give it to them anyway. Why?
It's totally unexplainable. And here's the facts. For anyone to say, oh, we owed them this money or it was their money, what they forget in the preceding 39 years since this dispute started is that Iran has killed U.S. servicemen and women. They have killed Americans. They have maimed our personnel. How in the world do you excuse killing of Americans and say, oh, well, we owe you money, so we're going to give this money back? What we should have done with that $400 million is given it to the victims of Iran's terrorism. They are the #1 state sponsor of terrorism. You don't give them money. Yeah,
Mercedes, can you believe that they admit, they go to the podium, Josh Earnest, and said, we know some of the money is going to end up in terrorist hands, in Hezbollah's hands, and we give it anyway. Look, the drug dealer, think about the drug dealer on the street. If you owe him money or he has some of your money and he gets busted dealing drugs, guess what? That money's gone. Your money's gone too. We should treat it the same way.
That's right. And I think it's just one word: weakness. Weakness from this administration to confront Iran. They negotiated an incredibly weak nuclear deal that the majority of Americans don't even agree with. And then they proceed to move forward on this $400 million cash exchange. Not very transparent. The optics look awful. The mere fact that you had one of the former hostages come out, Abedini, come out yesterday, or this past week, and basically say, look, they were saying we were waiting on hold in the plane, waiting for another plane to come in. It's all so fishy. It just doesn't work, Eric. And I think that for this administration to even move forward and give them money when we know that they are sponsoring terrorism, it just goes against everything that America stands for.
And Gina, the Wall Street Journal reporter who broke this story said that he found that the Department of Justice, the DOJ, actually recommended to the State Department not to send this money because it looks so bad, yet they did it anyway.
Right. Wait a day, wait a week, wait a month, I don't know. But if they were going to do it that day, Eric, and if they had a clear conscience about it, why not just press release it that day? Hey, this looks suspicious. We know it. That's why we wanted to go ahead and be upfront and transparent, as we said we would be, and we never have been, and tell you that we're going to do this. And your sister network, Fox Business, reported that Pastor Saeed, one of those released, even said the captors said we have to wait for this plane to land before we can even take off. Right. They don't just think we're stupid, Eric. They think we are remarkably
Gina, don't worry. It's not ransom. You know how I know it's not ransom? President Obama said so. Listen.
We do not pay ransom. We didn't here, and we don't. We won't in the future. Precisely because if we did, then we would start encouraging Americans to be targeted.
Hey, Juan, it walks like a duck, it quacks like a duck. That duck is walking and waddling and quacking all the way to $400 million bank.
Well, before we go any farther, let me just say I'm amazed that this group does business with drug dealers, isn't able to tell the cash-in audience about what you should do when your drug dealer is busted. But, you know, just say no, guys. I will now move on. I just got to say the president was transparent. They put out a press release in January announcing this money was being returned to the Iranians. And it was said at the time, gee whiz, guess what? This was their money. It's been held for 39 years, as Rick said. No interest payment, no nothing. But because of the banking system and the problems that we have put in place in terms of sanctions against the Iranians, the money was airlifted. That's the story this week. But in terms of ransom, we still have Americans being held overseas. The United States does not pay ransom. So for all of your conspiracy theories,
Oh, hang on.
Just
hang on.
empty.
I'm going to let Rick take this, but Rick, the 39 years, 1979, allegedly the Shah's money that's been sitting there. There's 13,505 days between then and the day that they gave them the money. Happens to be the same exact day that four prisoners were released. Somewhere being held somewhere around 5,000 days collectively. If you do the math on that, just straight probability on that, you're more likely to get struck by lightning and win the lottery in the same day.
Yeah, look, no one believes that this was settled and the money delivered on the same day. Juan, look, what you need to do is you need to go back and look at the exact words of that press release when Josh Earnest briefed reporters. It is very clear. They say we've settled this dispute, this long-running dispute, and because we've settled this dispute, it's going to create some diplomatic opportunities. Correct. That is what they said. It didn't create diplomatic opportunities. It created a payment immediately. The diplomatic opportunities happened within minutes of them paying this.
But
so it's not a diplomatic opportunity, Juan. You need to look at their exact words. They were very nebulous about what they were doing. And anyone like you who believes that and believes that Americans can be killed in the preceding years is really fooling themselves that we owe this money to the Iranian government.
All I want to say to you is, given your background in the State Department, you realize we didn't have conversations with the Iranians. It was only in the course of this deal, the Iranian nuclear deal.
I know one that
you guys hate. But the point is, it was only at that point that we started having discussions, and that's why the end of that deal, because an international court, Rick, an international court was going to rule against the United States. We're going to have to return the money anyway.
Okay, look, you're missing the point. I get that if you settled this dispute and it was going to create some sort of diplomatic opportunities to have additional discussions, that would have been great. That happened in 1 minute. It didn't happen by settling this dispute. Oh, now we have an opportunity to talk to Iran. We settled this, and the plane flew because we settled it.
Let me get Mercy.
I would take my chances with that.
Gina, I want to talk to you about this, though.
Eric.
This is $400 million. We're going to give over another $1.3 billion in additional. We're going to give them $1.7 billion.
Yeah, I would take my chances with that in a court if I could be heard. And I would say, hey, top sponsor of terror, once they kill us, we don't owe them anything anymore. I mean, I think all bets are off at that point, and I don't think most courts would convict you. This is a cop-out on the part of this administration, and we see straight through it.
Well, and the other thing is that
already lost against Iran.
Let me get Mercy. Go ahead, Mercy.
Right, and the other thing is you're talking about they're getting sanction relief, over $150 billion in sanction relief because of this deal. The fact that we're unfreezing these assets, the fact that, guess the only one that are hailing victory? It's the Iranians. The Iranians who sponsor terrorism. It is anti-American. It should be against our foreign policy to negotiate with dictators. And that's why it upsets me when Hillary Clinton goes after saying that Donald Trump is negotiating with dictators. This administration's policy has been to cozy up with dictators, not only in Iran, but in Cuba. And I think it's a failed policy. It is not what we should do.
Ask Israel. Ask Israel if it's a failed policy.
I got to go, but if you're worried about Donald Trump's foreign policy and you're not worried about President Obama and John Kerry's foreign policy, you just may be a fool. I'm going to have to leave it right there.